Welcome back to the channel. Another Jeff Jacob collection session over at Hakes is in the books, and I've got the final sales prices for a number of the items that sold last night. I'm filming this on Friday for a Saturday release. There were some beauties. I think my favorites, honestly, were some of the Empire Strikes Back and the Tri-Logos were really impressive. And we had to go through a lot of these. I don't know if there were necessarily any really big surprises to a lot of these prices, but some of them went higher, some of them went lower. You know, you just never know what's going to happen. And I thought that I would just pick out the ones that I particularly noticed as being either good deals or pretty pricey. And I appreciate those of you that watched. Let me know in the comments if you were able to pick up anything. I know a couple of you were bidding, and a few of you won some items. I know Matthew, a buddy of mine and a Patreon supporter, he actually won a couple of really good Tri-Logos that were very good deals. So there were some good deals in this auction lot. So congrats to Hakes on another very well done job on the Jeff Jacob collection. I thought that, I was seeing, maybe it's because of my algorithms, but I was seeing ads for this particular session everywhere, between emails and Facebook and elsewhere, YouTube. I just thought they did a really good job of advertising this auction lot. And I don't know if there were any really massive numbers, but there were a few big ones that I wanted to go through. So as always, the winning bids will include the 18% buyer's premium. And for those of you that have not paid yet, if you wire the funds, the buyer's premium gets dropped to 15%. So you can avoid the credit card fees. But this 12-back C Princess Leia was an AFA 85, 85, 85, 80 were the sub-scores. 51.92 was the winning bid, which is slightly above the upper end of the value code. I don't know if that's a big surprise. It's a beautiful 12-back and high grade. The 12-back C Darth Vader, though, was a big number. This one was 85, 85, 90. 12-back C. And I was just surprised it went this high. It went at 78.52, which is a big number. But, when you get this kind of auction lot where you have all these massive high-grade items across every line, every card iteration, there's going to be one or two, usually two, to make these numbers, where they are looking for that specific character on that specific card back, and it can lead to a bidding war. And that's what happened, I think, with this one. And, throughout this auction, there's just going to be that type of thing that happens. I thought this was a really good deal for somebody. This was the special action figure droid set that includes R5-D4, the Death Star droid, and the Power droid. It was an AFA 80. And the value code was 5 to 10, which is exactly where I would have guessed. I would have guessed it would have gone higher than what it did go for, but this was the final sales price was 53.10. 53.10. So I thought that was a really good deal. Only 5 examples graded higher on the population report. There's something about this particular droid set that I really like. And I think part of the final sales price there was the aesthetics around the window. You can see a lot of edgeware there. And so that probably held the price back just a little bit with all of the edgeware around the cardboard portion of the box. And, is it a box 80? Yeah, it's probably maybe a little higher than I probably would have gone a 75 on the box score, but that probably played maybe a little part, is just how aesthetically appealing it is versus maybe some of the other high-grade examples that come up for sale every so often. But I just thought that, for me, I thought that was a pretty decent deal at 53.10. Here's another one. So my buddy Byron was bidding on this, and he asked me what I thought that this mail-away Boba Fett would end for. This was an AFA 85, and I told him that it's going to go for at least 4,000, and I was nowhere close. So this is one that, it's the highest graded example, none higher. I'm assuming that there's maybe a few other 85s out there. I didn't look at the population report, but, I was just kind of eyeballing it based on where I see these sell for on Facebook. And maybe you shouldn't do that, because I think that the bidder population for the Jeff Jacobs collection on Hakes is not the same that you'll see on Facebook. It's just not. And the values are always going to be higher. And this one sold for $64.90, which even blew me away. I was like, okay, 4 on the low end, maybe 5 or 5,500 if it, gets a little crazy, but it went well above that number at $64.90. So huge number for the mail away Boba Fett in an AFA 85. All of the loose graded die cast went for gigantic numbers. I didn't include all of them, but they all went way above where I expected, and way above the value codes. The value codes were kind of right in line with where I would have guessed, but they were all uncirculated 85, so that maybe played a little part to it. But and it's also the kind of thing where you don't really see the loose graded die cast that come up that much at these auction houses. Or really, maybe it's because in our Facebook group we happen to have a lot of them and sell a lot of them, but these numbers were, significantly, they're probably a good solid 20 to 25% higher than where I typically see these sell. But maybe I shouldn't be too surprised, given that they are DCA uncirculated grades, but they were every one of them went for well above where I expected. This was an interesting sale. This was a Sears catalog, and a Sears catalog plush for Chewbacca, and the catalog order label was stapled at the top, and it was in like a baggie. And at the time of listing these items in the auction, this is the only AFA graded example, and they had the value code at 1,000 to 2,000, and it came in about 30% below the low end of the value at 708. So it's weird how sometimes we've seen some plushes recently on eBay that CIB sold that went for big numbers. So I was a little surprised this one went as low as it did. But, again, it could be aesthetics. You can't really see the Chewbacca that well with the kind of SKU number or whatever that is, along with the Sears catalog receipt there. You can't really see much of the actual item, so maybe that played a part in it. But it was the only one, and it was an AFA 80, but it did sell for 708. The ESBs, there was a lot of big time price action in the Empire Strikes Back items. This is the 21 back Secret Star Wars action figure offer Han, but it also had the offer extension sticker, which does tend to do crazy things to the prices. We've seen a few of these over the years on eBay, and they've always gone for big money. The last one I remember was a Walrus Man that had the extension sticker, and it went for $3,600. And that was a while ago. I just happened to remember that one on eBay that was at auction, and I think it did sell around that number, like $3,600. And this one sold for a similar number at $3,770 because of the extension sticker. And the AFA label didn't even mention that, but it says large head. I would have thought they would have added the offer extension sticker on there, but maybe there's only so much room on the AFA label. But that was an AFA 85 and did sell for $3,770. The 32 back B Hoth Snowtrooper blew away the high end of the value code. Maybe not blew it away, but it was a high number at $2,149. It was a beautiful example, though. Very, very clean. And even the sticker, that holds the blaster in place looked to be still clear there. There's maybe some scattered kind of stuff inside the blister, but man, that was a very nice, very clean looking figure, especially, and $2,149 for that. This was a big number as well. This was the Kenner Canada version of the 41 back for Luke Bespin fatigues. It's got the walking photo with brown hair, AFA 80, and it was the only AFA graded example. And that's true for a lot of these ESB Kenner Canada cards, that there's just not many of them on the census. I had a Dengar that was the highest graded example, and this one is the only graded example. So that one sold for $2,832, which I don't know if that's necessarily a big surprise, just given that it's the only one out there. To me, it's actually surprising it wasn't even higher than that. A lot of the 41 backs sold for huge numbers. The 41 back A Luke Bespin blew away my expectations. I had one of these. I had a 41A, same grade and everything. And this one sold for $20.26, which is a good solid 25 or 30% above where I sold mine. But that was a huge number. The Darth Vader also blew away the expectations for the 41 back A. That one sold for $37.64. Huge number there. This was probably the biggest surprise to me, but maybe it shouldn't have been. But this is the AFA 85 for the 21B medical droid on the 41A. The value code was $1,000 to $2,000. It sold for $23.36, which that might be the biggest price I've ever seen for an ESB 21B medical droid on any card back. I mean, that was a huge number there. The Hoth Rebel Commander, this has certainly got to be up there. I can't imagine that this is not a world record, but this was a 41 back E Hoth Rebel Commander, a secondary character, and it went for $25.71, AFA 85. But man, what a huge number on that. And more on the Hoth Rebel Commander in a little while. But obviously, the 45 back C-3PO removable limbs, this is one of only 3 examples in total that have been graded by AFA. It just never shows up on the 45 back. This is kind of like the similar situation to Forlom on the 48 back A versus the 48 back C, right? You got the poor man's debut card, which is the 48C, but the true debut card for Forlom is the 48A, and we saw one of those in a previous Jeff Jacobs collection that sold for big numbers. This one also sold for a huge number at $61.65, so very, very rare to find that one. The TIE Fighter pilot on the debut card, this was a real big surprise as well. A lot of these ESBs just really went well above expectations, and that's kind of where the meat and potatoes was. The ESB cards and the tri-logos was where a lot of the action was, and this one sold for $38.94. That's a huge number for the debut 47 back TIE Fighter pilot, well above where I would have expected that one to go. This I thought was a good deal as well. This was the ESB multi-pack, the 6-pack that was in very high grade. All the baggies were in very high grade shape. The box was in great shape. Absolutely beautiful. And I certainly would have guessed it would have gone for higher than it did. But this one has come back down to earth. We've seen a couple of data points for this particular 6-pack here this year where the price has not met my expectations. So I think it's just kind of one of those things where certain items reset in value. And this is definitely one of them. It sold for $35.40. The 12-inch Boba Fett, this one blew away the numbers. I mean, this one was a crazy final number. AFA 85, and it sold for $17,700. The value code was 5 to 10. I would have probably guessed in the 12,000 range. There's only 4 examples that are AFA 85. And this one was a true AFA 85. We saw one that sold in, I think it was on Heritage, that had scuffing all over the figure or the window. I couldn't tell which. And that number was massive, but people were buying the grade, not the item. This one is a true 85 in my mind. And it was a huge, huge number at $17,700. On to some of the proof cards. I didn't include all the proof cards, but I did want to show the blank test proof card. This is always a very desirable item when one of those comes up for sale. This one, there's only 2 examples graded higher, and that one sold for $48.02. $48.02. The value code was 5 to 10, so it came in a little bit below expectations. Now, the crazy thing is, of all the other proof cards they had, the one that went for the most money was the Hoth Rebel Commander. And I got to be honest, I don't remember ever seeing a Hoth Rebel Commander Revenge of the Jedi proof card come up for sale. And that's probably why, is that somebody is filling out their collection of proof cards, the Revenge of the Jedi proof cards. It never comes up in high grade or at all. I mean, I don't remember one ever coming up. And it went for, 2.5 times the high end of the value code. So the value code was $1,000 to $2,000. I would have guessed in that $1,500 to $1,600 range just because it's a secondary character. But again, it just is one that has not come up very much. So there was a bidding war that broke out, and $45.43 was the final sales price. So you never know, man. The 48 back Return of the Jedi transition cards, they also went for some big money. The value code on this one was $400 to $700, which I knew was way too low. This is a particularly tough one to find, the Yoda on the Return of the Jedi 48 back. There's not a ton of these graded on the population report. It was an AFA 80. And this one did have a yellowed blister since grading, but that one sold for $23.36. I know that CIB also had one of these fairly recently. I don't remember when, on eBay, that went for a big number as well. It went for I think it went for above this number, but it was also a clear blister. This one was a slightly yellowed blister. Next up was the Boba Fett. That one went for $4,023. And that one also, this one was yellowed since grading. This one was actually labeled yellowed on the AFA label. This one was not. This one had yellowed since grading, but still went for a pretty big number at $40.23. The tri-logos, man, these tri-logos were absolutely stunning in this auction lot. This one was the Meccano small blister with the cape on, AFA 85 for Luke Jedi. And it went for, the value code was 1 to 2. It went for $44.56, which is a huge number. I would not have guessed it would have gone that high. And this is one that you do see pretty regularly, even on eBay. I mean, we've seen this one a lot, in different auctions. So not even just CIB auctions, but, elsewhere. So I'm really surprised that this one went as high as it did. But it did, so that's the final sales price. The Yodas, the AFA 85 Yoda also was really surprising. That one went for $41.53. I would have guessed in that $1,500 to $2,000. This was the brown snake Yoda. This was a good deal for somebody. I don't know why this one went for less, but the orange snake Yoda on the tri-logo is very tough to find. And somebody got a really good deal on this one. This one, the value code was 7 to 100. We've seen ones in similar grade on eBay go for double or close to it anyway. I think it was like 3,600, somewhere in that ballpark. And admittedly, that was about a year or two ago. I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was an AFA 80 orange snake Yoda. It was kind of under the radar, but it still sold for a huge number. And this one sold for $19.47. So I think whoever bought this versus the brown, the brown snake was higher grade, admittedly, but that one sold for $41.53. The orange snake is the one you want. That is a really tough one to get, and that one really went way below what I would have expected. I would have expected these numbers to be reversed, basically. I could have seen $4,100 on this one and $1,900 on this one. So it was just weird. It was just a weird thing. But for those that don't know, if you see an orange snake Yoda tri-logo, grab it, if you can get it for a good deal, because they are just very, very tough to find. The Jawa was an AFA 85. We all know how expensive the Jawa is on the tri-logo, and that one went for $59.41. Not a huge surprise there. The General Madine did go low. I was shocked by this sales price. It was an AFA 80 double stem blister, tri-logo General Madine. They just do not come up very much, and it's only the second example offered. Now, the last time that Hakes sold one, I don't think it was as high of a grade as this one, and it set up all kinds of records. So this, I think, is you can chalk this one up to there's a limited demand for General Madine on the tri-logo. Once you get one, you're not looking for another one. And I can't believe there's a ton of collectors out there that are looking for the full run of tri-logos. And, again, once it goes into a collection, it usually stays there for a very long time. And this number was definitely, it's got to be disappointing, I think, because it's, just given what the other one sold for. It was like, I don't remember the number. It was a huge number. It was last year, I think, that Hakes sold one, and it set the world record for it. But this one was got to be disappointing, but that's the way it goes sometimes, is that you need to have two people that are both looking for a particular item, and for some reason that just didn't happen in this auction. But it's still a very impressive number of $18,000, but just relative to the last one that Hake sold, it came in well below expectations. This was a beauty. This was the Spanish PBP pale-face dark brown body for the Hoth Rebel soldier. So this has got a Spanish figure inside the blister. That was a stunner. and it blew away the expectations of 400 to 700. I knew that was too low because a loose graded example in high grade for that figure can go for $1,000 easily. So mint on card, that one sold for $24.01. The Boba Fett was a Meccano style blister, AFA 85, absolutely beautiful. And it sold kind of in line with expectations, maybe a little low. We've seen a few of these sell recently from CIB on eBay that went for like in that 1,500 to 16,000, or excuse me, 15,000 to 16,000 range. But this was an AFA 85, so I was expecting this one to cross over 20,000. The ones on eBay were all like 70s, 75s, 80s in that ballpark. But this one was an AFA 85, and so I was expecting this one to really jump. And the interesting thing is that this one was still clear blister, which a lot of these Meccano blisters on the Tri-Logos, they do yellow. We've seen a number of those yellow over the years, but this one was still clear blister. So I think those factors combined, the 85 plus the clear blister plus Boba Fett, obviously, but I would have guessed in that 25,000 range for this one. So this one definitely came in below my expectations, although it met the value code expectations. I just think that for what that one was, I was surprised it didn't at least cross 20,000. But there were a number of other really beautiful items in this auction lot. I just gave you a sampling. The AFA 90 Tri-Logo for IG88 sold for $22.42. Huge number, huge news number. The Stormtrooper was an AFA 85 and sold for $15.57. So a lot of these Tri-Logos are very, very desirable. I didn't include everything. The Lily Letty Boba Fett is one I forgot to show because that one was a mind-blowing final number. This was an AFA 75. This is the highest graded example for the Lily Letty Boba Fett. Look how beautiful this is. It's got that crease there in the upper left, but man, what an absolute stunner. And that one sold for $77,800. They didn't even include a value code estimate, as they probably shouldn't have, just because it's so rare and because it's the highest graded example. But that one certainly met his expectations at $77,800. So congrats to Jeff on just an incredible auction lot. I mean, there was just so much. I could probably talk for years and years in this auction about all of the amazing items that were in here. But I just wanted to give you guys a sampling. But just a beautiful, beautiful lot of items. It's a shame that Jeff had to kind of break everything up, but you know, we all move on eventually. I did the same thing this year. And congrats to both Jeff and to Hakes on a job well done in this auction lot. That's all I really have for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment with what you picked up, if you picked up anything in this auction. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.